Look at your neighbor and tell them, this year I'm not playing because 2026 didn't show up to babysit your comfort. It showed up to test your commitment. If you walked into this room still negotiating with fear, still flirting with excuses, still waiting for permission, this message is about to interrupt your comfort zone. Hear me clearly, 2026 will not respond to weak effort. It will not bow to half-hearted prayers, delayed discipline, or convenient obedience. This is not the year to try. This is the year to go hard. In your thinking, in your faith, in your execution. Some of you survived 2025, but survival is not success. You made it through, but you didn't break through. And God didn't keep you alive just to stay average. 2026 demands a go-hard mindset. No excuses, no softness, no retreat, because the door only opens for those bold enough to push with force. Comfort is subtle. It doesn't arrive loud or violent. It slips in quietly, wraps itself around your routine, and convinces you that where you are is good enough. But hear me clearly, comfort is not neutral. Comfort is an enemy that smiles while it delays your destiny. The moment you get too comfortable is the moment you stop stretching, and the moment you stop stretching is the moment growth begins to die. You were not created to settle into ease. You were created to rise into purpose. And purpose always requires pressure. Comfort whispers lies that sound like wisdom. It tells you to wait when God is saying move. It tells you to protect what you have instead of pursuing what you were promised. It tells you not to rock the boat, not to offend anyone, not to take risks. But everything God ever used mightily was pushed beyond comfort. Moses had to leave the palace. David had to leave the pasture. Esther had to risk her life. Jesus had to carry a cross. Comfort has never produced calling, sacrifice has. Some of you are frustrated not because you are doing too much, but because you are doing too little that costs you anything. You pray for elevation while refusing discomfort. You ask for increase while avoiding inconvenience. But calling doesn't respond to convenience. It responds to courage. The reason the pressure feels heavy is because you are carrying something valuable. Pressure is not a sign you are failing. It is evidence that something is being formed. Comfort will keep you rehearsing old victories while missing new assignments. It will have you celebrating what God did years ago instead of preparing for what He wants to do now. It keeps you stuck in familiar cycles, familiar people, familiar patterns, and familiarity, when it overstays its welcome, becomes a prison. What once protected you can eventually restrain you. The same place that kept you safe can also keep you small. There is a breaking point where comfort must be confronted. You have to make a decision that ease will no longer lead you. Growth will stretch your mind, your habits, your faith, and your endurance. It will demand more than you want to give, but anything worth becoming will cost you who you used to be. The next level is not comfortable because comfort would make it optional, and destiny is never optional. God is not trying to make your life easier. He is trying to make you stronger. That's why the call feels heavy. That's why the season feels demanding. That's why restlessness keeps tapping you on the shoulder. You weren't built for soft ground. You were built for resistance. Comfort wants you to stay where you are. Calling keeps pulling you forward. And in 2026, the war is not against people, circumstances, or time. The war is against comfort. Motivation is emotional. It rises when the music is right, when the crowd is loud, when everything feels aligned. But emotions are unstable, and anything built on emotion will collapse the moment pressure shows up. Discipline, on the other hand, it does not ask how you feel. It does not wait for inspiration. Discipline gets up when the alarm rings, shows up when no one is watching, and keeps moving when applause disappears. That's why discipline goes places motivation can only talk about. There will be days in 2026 when you don't feel strong, focused, or confident. Days when your mind is tired, your body is weary, and your faith feels stretched thin. Motivation will abandon you in those moments. It will make excuses sound reasonable. It will convince you that tomorrow is a better day to start. But discipline will carry you through when feelings fail. Discipline says, I made a decision and I'm not renegotiating it today. Discipline is proof of maturity. Children do what feels good. Grown people do what is necessary. You cannot live a powerful life making daily decisions based on temporary moods. Destiny requires structure. Calling requires consistency. Breakthrough is attracted to those who are willing to repeat the right actions long after the excitement wears off. Discipline turns small, unseen acts into unstoppable momentum. Most people don't fail because they lack talent or opportunity. They fail because they lack follow-through. They start strong and finish weak. They shout on day 1 and disappear by day 10. Discipline stays when motivation leaves the room. It keeps building when nothing seems to be changing. It keeps sowing when the harvest is delayed. And eventually, discipline produces results that motivation could never sustain. Discipline also protects you from yourself. It guards your time, your energy, your focus. It creates boundaries that keep distractions from stealing your future. Without discipline, you will be busy but unproductive, active but unfulfilled. You will confuse movement with progress. Discipline gives direction to effort and purpose to persistence. There is a reason the process feels repetitive. There is a reason growth feels slow. Discipline works in layers, not leaps. It is shaping your character while sharpening your skill. It is teaching you endurance, so success doesn't crush you when it comes. You are not just being prepared to receive the promise, you are being prepared to keep it. In 2026, feelings will fluctuate, but discipline must remain fixed. You may not always feel ready, confident, or motivated, but you must be consistent. Discipline is not punishment, it is alignment. It aligns your daily actions with your long-term calling. And when discipline becomes your lifestyle, you will look back and realize it carried you to places motivation never could. You keep asking God for a new season while holding on to old behaviors. You want fresh oil, but you refuse to empty the old container. New doors don't open for people who are emotionally, mentally, and spiritually overloaded. There are habits you picked up in survival mode that cannot follow you into a season of success. What kept you alive will not always help you grow. At some point, preservation becomes limitation. Old habits are comfortable because they are familiar. They make you feel in control, even when they are quietly controlling you. You justify them by saying, "This is just how I am," not realizing that growth demands change. You cannot evolve while insisting on staying the same. Every new level requires a new mindset, and every new mindset demands the release of old patterns. Some of what you are carrying is not even sinful. It's just outdated, old reactions, old coping mechanisms, old ways of thinking that no longer fit where you're going. You respond to new opportunities with old fear. You face new responsibilities with old insecurities. You step into new rooms but still think like someone who was never invited. That internal contradiction creates frustration, not favor. God will not override your habits. He will expose them. He will keep allowing the cycle to repeat until you recognize what must change. You wonder why the same problems keep showing up in different forms. It's not the environment, it's the pattern. Change the pattern and the outcome changes. But patterns don't break with prayer alone. They break with intentional transformation. There are relationships, routines, and rhythms that feel safe but are silently draining you. They consume energy without producing growth. They occupy space without adding value. And as long as they remain, they will compete with what God is trying to build next. You cannot carry dead weight and expect divine acceleration. Release is not loss. Release is alignment. Letting go is uncomfortable because it feels like stepping into the unknown. But the unknown is often where your expansion lies. God never reveals the full picture while you're still clinging to what He already told you to leave. Obedience creates clarity. When you release what no longer serves your assignment, direction becomes sharper and purpose becomes louder. The reason this feels like a breaking year is because something has to be broken off. You can't step into a new year dragging last year's baggage. Old habits steal time, dull hunger, and weaken focus. And focus is currency in 2026. What you tolerate will determine what you experience. What you refuse to release will determine what you cannot receive. This is not about perfection, it's about progression. You don't need to have it all figured out. You just need to stop carrying what no longer belongs to who you are becoming. The future is demanding room, and the only way to make space is to let go. Faith was never designed to be passive. Faith was never meant to sit still, wait quietly, and hope something changes. Faith is alive, and anything alive moves. You can shout, you can sing, you can pray, and you can declare, but if your feet never follow your faith, nothing shifts. Heaven responds to movement. The moment you step, something starts aligning. Faith without action sounds powerful, but it produces nothing. Too many people confuse spiritual language with spiritual obedience. They know how to speak the words, but resist the work. They quote promises, but avoid responsibility. They say they trust God, yet refuse to take the steps God is asking for. Faith does not eliminate effort. It gives effort direction. It does not replace work. It empowers it. When God gives a word, he expects participation, not spectatorship. Action is the evidence of belief. If you truly believe, you will move differently, prepare differently, and commit differently. You don't wait for everything to make sense before you act. You move because you trust the one who spoke. Every miracle in Scripture required motion. The Red Sea didn't part until Moses lifted his staff. The walls of Jericho didn't fall until the people marched. The blind man didn't see until he washed. Movement preceded manifestation. Delayed obedience is disguised disobedience. Saying "one day" is often another way of saying "not now." But timing matters. Opportunities have expiration dates. Assignments have seasons. When you hesitate, fear fills the gap, and fear will always give you reasons to stay where you are. Action silences fear. The moment you move, courage catches up. Action also exposes what prayer alone cannot. Prayer reveals direction, but action reveals resistance. When you try to move, you discover where discipline is weak, where confidence is lacking, where faith needs strengthening. That's not failure, that's feedback. God uses action to refine you. You don't grow by thinking about obedience, you grow by practicing it. Some doors only open from the other side. You keep waiting for confirmation, but confirmation comes after commitment. God does not always show you the next step until you take the first one. That's why faith is risky. It requires trust without full visibility. But clarity is not the prerequisite for obedience. Obedience is the pathway to clarity. There is power released when faith and action collide. Momentum is created when prayer meets movement. Things begin to shift, not because you worked harder, but because you aligned your effort with divine instruction. God breathes on motion. He multiplies what you put your hands to, but he will not bless stagnation. In 2026, declarations must turn into decisions. Prayers must turn into preparation. Belief must turn into behavior. Faith that moves will always outrun faith that only speaks. And when you finally move, you will realize God was ready all along. He was just waiting on you. Not everyone is assigned to understand you, and that truth will save you a lot of unnecessary frustration. When God places a vision in your spirit, he does not submit it for public approval. Some people will only see what you used to be, not what you are becoming. They are comfortable with the version of you that fits their expectations, their access, and their control. The moment you begin to grow, stretch, and change, their confusion turns into criticism. You waste valuable energy trying to explain a calling that was never meant to be explained. Assignment is revelation, not debate. People who are not part of your journey will always question your direction. They will label your obedience as arrogance, your boundaries as pride, and your growth as betrayal. But you cannot allow their misunderstanding to become your limitation. If you need constant validation, you will eventually compromise your obedience. There is a difference between accountability and permission. Accountability strengthens you. Permission weakens you. When you start asking people who are comfortable where they are to approve where you are going, you will talk yourself out of progress. Their fear will sound like wisdom. Their insecurity will sound like concern. And before you realize it, you will shrink your vision to keep their comfort intact. God often separates before he elevates. Not because people are evil, but because proximity can create pressure. Some voices are too familiar to hear clearly. Some relationships carry history that interferes with destiny. When you are growing into something new, you need space to become without constantly defending your process. Silence is sometimes the language of focus. Every assignment comes with isolation. There are moments when you must walk alone, think alone, and decide alone. That doesn't mean you are abandoned. It means you are being refined. Eagles don't fly in flocks because their altitude demands solitude. The higher you go, the fewer people can breathe where you're headed. That's not pride, that's reality. Explaining yourself to the wrong people will keep you emotionally exhausted. You will find yourself overthinking decisions that were already confirmed in prayer. You will begin to doubt what God made clear. Peace will disappear, replaced by confusion. When God speaks, clarity follows. When too many voices speak, confusion grows. You don't owe everyone access to your process. You don't owe everyone an explanation for your obedience. Some people are meant to witness the outcome, not understand the journey. Your responsibility is not to be understood. It is to be faithful. Obedience does not require applause. Purpose does not need permission. In 2026, focus will require boundaries, and boundaries will require courage, and courage will require you to stop explaining yourself to people who were never meant to walk with you where God is taking you. Stay committed to the assignment. Those who need to understand will understand when the fruit shows up. There is no neutral ground in moments that demand transformation. You are either advancing or retreating, growing or stagnating, pressing or drifting. The idea that you can stay in the middle and still arrive at destiny is a lie that comfort tells to protect itself. Seasons like 2026 expose indecision. They force a choice. Half effort will no longer produce full results, and hesitation will cost more than failure ever could. Commitment is not proven by intention, but by intensity. Many people mean well, dream big, and speak boldly, yet live cautiously. They flirt with greatness, but never marry it. They want the rewards of discipline without the demands of sacrifice. But the door you are praying to walk through only opens for those willing to push with everything they have. Destiny does not respond to curiosity, it responds to conviction. The middle ground is dangerous because it feels safe while slowly draining momentum. It allows you to say you tried without ever risking transformation, but transformation demands totality. When you go hard, you remove options for retreat. You stop entertaining exit strategies. You burn the bridges that lead back to mediocrity and force yourself forward. That kind of resolve activates strength you didn't know you had. Pressure reveals priorities. When things get hard, what you truly value rises to the surface. Going hard means deciding in advance what matters most and refusing to compromise when resistance shows up. It means staying focused when distractions are loud and staying disciplined when progress is slow. The grind is not punishment, it is preparation. It builds stamina for the weight of success that is coming. There will be moments when quitting feels reasonable, when rest turns into retreat, when slowing down looks like wisdom. But there is a difference between rest and surrender. Rest refuels you for the journey, surrender ends it. Going hard does not mean being reckless. It means being relentless. It means staying engaged even when the excitement fades and the work becomes routine. You were not designed to live on pause. You were built to pursue, to press, to persist. The fire you feel stirring is not frustration, it is invitation. An invitation to rise to the level of your calling. An invitation to stop negotiating with fear. An invitation to show up fully in your faith, your work, and your purpose. When you commit fully, something shifts internally, confidence grows, focus sharpens, fear loses its grip, momentum begins to build. You realize that the power you were waiting for was released the moment you decided to stop holding back. Going hard awakens the version of you that hesitation kept asleep. This is not a season for dabbling. This is a season for decisiveness. The cost of full commitment may be high, but the cost of half-hearted living is higher. In 2026, there is no middle ground. You either press forward with everything in you, or you stay where you are, and staying where you are is no longer an option. Hear me as I take my seat. 2026 is not waiting on your feelings, your fears, or your excuses. It is responding to your decision. If you go in soft, it will push you back. But if you step in bold, disciplined, and fully committed, doors will open that resistance tried to block. This is the year you stop negotiating with doubt and start walking in authority. You didn't come this far to hesitate now. Stand up, square your shoulders, and go hard. because destiny is calling and it will not whisper,